coming off of their 9th consecutive win, do you, Broncos country, really deep down in your heart of hearts trust this Denver Broncos offense? Could injuries to both squads change up the game plans for Sean Payton and Pete Carroll ahead of this weekend's matchup? And how much should Denver be worried about a potential trap game in Sin City this weekend? All things to come on today's rundown. Thank you so much for joining us. While you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 1043 The Fan YouTube channel. You can find us at Denver Sports 1043 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. If you're watching us on X or on Facebook, we love you. We appreciate you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so that you never miss a moment with us. Tons and tons to get into today on a Football Friday ahead of a pivotal divisional matchup in the AFC West with massive implications for the future of the Denver Broncos as it relates to their playoff seeding. And there is no one better to discuss it with today than friend of the show, friend of the station, former Broncos wide receiver, current college football and NFL analyst out there in the desert, Mike Pritchard. Mike, it has been a long time. I'm thankful and excited to get the opportunity to talk to you today. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing excellent. I'm excited to be with you as well, Richie. It's been a minute, but certainly Colorado Denver being my second home, I could not wait to chop it up with you today.
Yep, you have a perfect balance of you have a knowledge base and a familiarity with the sports landscape here in Denver, obviously with the Broncos, and now in your current role and in your current location, being as tied to the Las Vegas area as you are, it's really going to be nice to pick your brain, and that's kind of where I want to start, as has been the case with a lot of out of market guests that I've talked to this season. What has been your biggest overall impression or takeaway of the Broncos from the 1,000-foot view that you get to be privy to outside looking in?
You know, I'm not shocked, but I am pleasantly surprised. I mean, I thought the Broncos would be an outlier team, meaning, they're going to be that team that's going to surprise a lot of people along the way. We see that with New England, certainly. But to be this level of surprising is something that I didn't conceive at all. I mean, I think it's come together the right way for the Broncos. Certainly, I mean, the defense has taken another leap forward from last year, which is incredible, and just some superior athletes on that side of the ball. And then offensively, it was all about the evolution and the maturation of Bo Nix. And could that continue? It's been bumpy at times, but it's been constant, though. I mean, there's something that you can rely on with Bo Nix, is that his presence on the field and his presence within that locker room is something that the players and the fellows really respect.
Mike, I, going into this season, had a similar tone that you just described about the Broncos being kind of that potential sleeper or surprise team. I had a similar tone actually about the Raiders going into this upcoming season, which clearly it has not gone that way up to this point. But Mike, my reasoning for it was actually based on what we've observed from the Broncos in the last couple of seasons, and it had to do with alignment. And when the Broncos, who had this very disjointed, nearly 7-8 year stretch post Super Bowl 50, where nothing was in sync with each other, and it was very convoluted and dramatic and ugly and dysfunctional, starting all the way up at the ownership level and trickling all the way down to the locker room. But once all of the stars came into alignment for Denver, when you had the sale of the Broncos organization to the Walton Penner ownership group, one of the better, or proving to be one of the better ownership groups in professional sports, who then had reinforced belief and faith and trust in a front office headed by George Payton, who's been here for a number of years now. The first move that ownership group and front office made since coming together was bringing in an experienced veteran championship caliber head coach in Sean Payton. And Sean Payton, the first thing he did after getting rid of Russell Wilson was bring in his quarterback in Bo Nix. And once you had ownership, front office, head coach, and quarterback come into alignment, the Broncos went from one of the more dysfunctional, underperforming teams in the National Football League to a wild card playoff team that broke a streak of consecutive playoff misses and consecutive losing seasons dating back to basically 2016. And I kind of looked at what's been going on in Las Vegas, and I saw similar shades of that. You know, you bring in Tom Brady into the minority ownership group, and there's all this speculation and hype about him and the influence he's going to have trickling downward. You bring in some new front office people. Pete Carroll comes into the picture again, championship caliber veteran head coach. And the first thing he does is bring in the quarterback that he was comfortable moving on from Russell Wilson with, and that he's felt like he could win with in Geno Smith. So I said, hey, listen, it would be naive not to think that the massive snap of the fingers turnaround we've seen with Denver in the last season and a half can't also happen to Las Vegas, who's following a similar blueprint. Why hasn't it manifested itself quite that way this season in Vegas?
Well, I think one part you left out was what the Broncos actually went through after the Super Bowl, after Manning, and then, okay, how do you tear down the roster, or do you piece it together? Bad drafts. All this stuff that was in there, right? Before you get to
ugly.
right before you get to the Game of Thrones and the ownership and okay, what direction we're going to go in. Russell Wilson, you're excited. Okay, Russell Wilson stinks. That kind of thing, right? So if you look at the Raiders with all the newness, I mean, they're still mired in the mess, though. Like, they had Antonio Pierce as a head coach. They got rid of him after 1 year. They had Rich Bisaccia after John Gruden gets suspended. They make the playoffs. They get rid of him, and then they bring in Josh McDaniels. It's like they're following the Broncos, right? I mean, Josh McDaniels, remember that experiment?
Yes.
So that didn't work out here as well. So there's been so much turnover and so many bad drafts. I can't even name a first rounder on this team outside of Colton Miller that they still don't have on their roster from years ago. I mean, Tyree Wilson still there, but he's not effective. And so just all the turnover and lack of culture, lack of going through it together, that kind of thing, going through the fire and then coming out and ready to go. I mean, there's so many aspects of this team with the Raiders that is just not settled. Like, we don't even know if Pete Carroll is going to be back. I mean, he might get fired. So you have that situation, no stability at all. So when you're not stable in that regard, how are you going to win games on the field? So, I mean, I think we're caught up. Well, the Raiders are. I keep saying we because it's Vegas, but I'm not a Raider. But for Vegas and my city where I'm from, I want them to be successful. But they're so caught up in some mess right now that they got so many things that they need to iron out before they're competitive on the field.
I made the analogy yesterday, Pritch, that this Broncos offense that has seen, it's such a two sides of the coin situation, almost like a Jekyll and Hyde situation, where for the majority of the games, our senior Broncos writer Andrew Mason put it out there that by passer rating as the metric of evaluation, Bo Nix in the final 2 minutes of a half and in overtime is the sixth best quarterback in the NFL by passer rating. At every other point in the game, outside of the final 2 minutes of a half or overtime, he is the 26th best passer in the NFL. So you have a fringe top 5 quarterback in crunch time and a looking outside of the top 25 quarterback every other point in the season. And it's crazy because, ironically, the only quarterback with a bigger disparity in those two metrics is Geno Smith, who they're about to face this weekend. But it's created this fascinating evaluation of the Broncos, who are 10-2 through 12 games on a 9-game win streak. Both of their losses have come with zeros on the clock. 6 of their wins during this 9-game win streak have been decided on the final play of the game. And yet, sitting atop the AFC the way that they are with New England, there's a lot of doubt. And I feel like this Broncos team, as they voiced, as many here in the media and in the fan base have come to acknowledge, they've proven that they can go 12 rounds with just about any team. This Broncos team can. Their defense keeps it close enough, and the offense just hangs around. It's like a Rocky Balboa style fight where they just take punch after punch after punch, and they just land the last one that wins them the fight. But what they haven't proven is that they can really just knock a team out. There's no first-round knockouts with this team. What, from your perspective, again, outside looking in, makes it such a challenging evaluation to go up against a team like that looks beatable a lot of the time. But I'll be damned, Pritch, they just don't lose that much.
well, I mean, I think as fans, and certainly, you cover a team, maybe you want to be more comfortable, but I think it's riveting the way that things are shaking out right now, because I want to go back to what I said earlier. The Broncos, they start off as an outlier team. Now, how fast do we propel them, or how fast do they propel themselves, right? And I think that's the question. The fact that they're winning, and they won 10 games, and okay, yeah, Bo Nix is what 9 game-winning drives in his career so far, and you think about the fourth quarter drives and the game-winning drives this year. That's okay because he's in his second year. It's not like he's a 10-year vet, right? I think he's going to make these kind of mistakes, or the mistakes that he's making, that keeps the games compelling. But he's afforded to be able to do that because of that defense, right? And so it's complementary in nature. And now there's an attitude emanating from this team too, and a physical presence as well, offensively, with running the football at times. But then also the run after the catch has been big too. So I'll take it in terms of the steps that the Broncos are taking, because they are still growing, right? They still are trying to become an elite team. But I'm not going to put them there yet. They don't deserve to be there yet. So the record is fantastic. It really is. And now, how do they finish it off? How do they capitalize? Can they stay confident? Can they condense the game to a handful of plays and be so confident that they're going to make the plays because they have? I mean, everybody talks about Mariota not throwing the ball over the defensive end there to make the play to win the game. But nobody's really concentrating on the fact that the Broncos was in position to make that play, right?
Yeah.
To prevent Mariota and Washington from winning that game. So I like the fact that the Broncos are making the plays that they need to make consistently, and therefore has really put together a solid season so far.
Pritch, when you look at the Broncos and the Raiders on paper, if you're just talking about offense and defense, comparing each side of the ball to the other, there is nowhere really you can look where the Raiders are a superior statistical team to the Broncos this season. And yet, the last time these two faced off, not that long ago, it was an ugly back-and-forth battle that ended in part because of a missed field goal and a 10-7 victory on Thursday Night Football for the Denver Broncos. But it was not a victory or a game that almost at any point you could feel a lot of confidence that either side was going to walk away with the win. So when you're looking at this particular Raiders squad, I know I did see that Max Crosby was a DNP yesterday and was a little bit limited the day before. Is there anything we need to know about Max Crosby's availabilities, the expectation that he will play? And if not, how does that kind of change the complexity of Vegas on the defensive side of the football?
Yeah, I mean, it changes Vegas tremendously. I mean, the Raiders, without Max Crosby, I don't even know what they are, because that guy can wreck an offensive line. He can wreck a line of scrimmage. He can wreck an offense, right? I mean, he's that good. But he is, with dealing with that knee injury. He's been dealing with it last year, a little bit into this year, but he's still a force. I mean, I expect him to line up and I expect him to play, but can he finish the game? I mean, those are questions I can't answer at this point. But yeah, without Max, I mean, I don't know where this team goes. I mean, they are void of leadership anyway, and this is with Max. Geno Smith has not ingratiated himself with this roster either. I mean, I don't think they even like Geno.
Wow.
And people have been bringing up the fact that he got his jaw busted in New York back in the day, right? Because he hasn't always been the best teammate. I think when you go to Seattle and you kind of earn that respect, maybe that's different. But now he came here with that respect, or feeling like he should have that respect, but he didn't earn it in this locker room. So not yet anyway. And I don't know if he ever will. But no, the Raiders are a complete mess. Again, I'll mention this before. They don't have a culture. They haven't been through anything together. There's a bunch of strangers on this roster, and when they get into these difficult situations, they're fighting with each other, right? And that's never a good situation. So I don't expect the Raiders to have a chance in this game, to be honest with you, unless the Broncos have just entirely overlook them because of what they have left on their schedule.
Well, that brings up, the exact question, the concept of a trap game, right? When you have two teams on polar opposite ends of the standings, 2-10, 10-2. I mentioned from a statistical standpoint, when you're talking about rushing offense, passing offense, scoring offense, and the same metrics on the defensive side of the ball, it comes up advantage Broncos across the board. As a former player yourself and a member of a number of prominent organizations and successful teams, how real is the notion of a trap game and the propensity for the upper hand team in that situation to fall into it?
Well, it's real if you don't know how to handle it. I mean, I think it's real if you fall into the trap. I mean, a lot of times media or people will talk about, this game and, oh, okay, it's not a great game. You guys should win. You're going to dominate this team. Okay, you're going to move on. And you start to focus on these other teams on your schedule that you have to do. You start thinking about number one seed and home field advantage. And then all of a sudden you feel distracted, right? And you're not going to take care of business on the field. Coming up this weekend, you're playing a professional football team. You're playing guys that get highly paid, and guys that, sometimes even though things aren't going right, they don't want to be embarrassed, right? And so you have to be prepared mentally. I think the head coach, Sean Payton, is a perfect coach and certainly a perfect leader in the sense that, okay, Broncos, let's avoid this trap game. We haven't won anything. We haven't done anything, really. We put ourselves in position. Bo Nix, they're still questioning you. How good of a quarterback are you really? I think if you challenge players and you scare them and you keep them, all grounded, certainly, don't let their egos get out of control, or don't let them gravitate away from the focus at hand, which is this weekend, then all that stuff will take care of itself, right? But if you're not disciplined and certainly you fall susceptible to the trap, then there you go. You're going to be trapped. But I think there's too much maturity and too much experience from the head coach and that coaching staff, Vance Joseph included, that I believe that they're not going to allow themselves to do that. I think they're going to challenge these players. We won this game last week, but we looked awful. Washington went up and down the field on our defense. I mean, You challenge guys this way, all of a sudden you're going to have their attention come to Sunday.
It is time to hit the turn, presented by The Birdie Bar, Louisville's premier indoor golf bar. Check them out online and on Instagram at thebirdie.bar. Pritch, the Raiders made a change at offensive coordinator that I don't think many people who weren't necessarily plugged in Las Vegas may have seen coming, especially considering Chip Kelly, who they parted ways with, was made the highest paid coordinator in the NFL just the season before. So obviously the way that the season has unfolded for Vegas, you can point to reasons why a change like that might be made. What I'm more interested in is what differences you have seen with the Raiders offense since then and how that might play a factor into this weekend's game against the Broncos.
Zero differences. I mean, Rich Olson is calling the plays now, but okay, what plays is he calling? Like the Raiders, they can't install an entire new offense this late in the season. I mean, they still have to execute or try to execute the Chip Kelly offense, whatever it is. I think you can call different sequences. I mean, you can sequence your plays in a different fashion, but no, they're going to be the same plays that they've rehearsed and they've gone through since training camp. The problem with the Raiders is that they're inept offensively on offensive line. They're not very good at all. They're not a physical team either. Like they want to run the football, and they got Ashton Genty, who's a physical back, but they can't really push people around. They have a superstar in Brock Bowers, but yet they haven't been creating matchups for him, right? It's been a structure of an offense. They're trying to have a structure to the offense. If anything's different, and I'll answer your question this way, if there's anything different coming up in the matchup against the Broncos this weekend, it's probably going to be Rich Olson looking at Brock Bowers and saying, okay, how can we match him up, or how can we move him around? How can we feature this guy within our offense? I mean, that's something I think the Broncos are going to have to pay attention to.
Yeah, certainly, because the Broncos defense, as good as they've been, and they've been great for basically the entirety of this season. There is an interesting note that last season around this time, the Broncos defense went from being one of the more stingy defenses in the NFL to one of the worst defenses in terms of yards allowed, whether through the air or on the ground in the NFL. And some of that was injury related and the turn of the calendar and the way that season had unfolded. So that's got a little bit of Broncos country on edge, just a tear, because you're turning the calendar to December and there's that familiar feeling. But as was evidenced by Washington in that Sunday Night Football game, there is the propensity and the capability to run on this Broncos defense on any given moment. It's just whether or not the team that's rushing the football is capable of seizing the opportunity. And Marcus Mariota, who's been in the league for 10, 11 years, mostly in a backup capacity of late, getting the ball out quickly the way that he did and utilizing the athleticism that he still possesses created some problems from a coverage standpoint for this defense. And I think that you look at Brock Bowers, who's obviously a superstar and on pace to potentially have a historic start continue for his career, was a non-factor in the game the first time, but still, for a Broncos defense that has struggled to cover tight ends for, the better part of the last decade or so, really since, Brandon Marshall and Todd Davis walked out the door, that fear is always kind of there. And if Chris Rodriguez and company in Washington on a downtrodden, injured Commanders team this season can run the football on it, I don't see a ton of reasons why Ashton Jeanty can't, unless the Raiders get in their own way from an offensive line standpoint. Is it still true, Pritch, by the way, because it was a handful of weeks into the season, that Ashton Jeanty has like more yards after contact than he does actual rushing yards because he's just getting hammered in the backfield on every play?
Yeah, I think that is true. That's very accurate. I mean, it looks the way anyway. Now they're trying to feature him a little bit more in the passing game, Jeanty, because he is an effective guy, but he still is only 5'7". And so how many certain plays do you have in the playbook that you can feature a 5'7", 5'8" running back, right? And there's where the Raiders are limited. Now, that game against Washington, you're talking about like a situation for Washington where that's a Super Bowl for them, really. I mean, the game of the year. Mm-hmm. You got a big audience and you're at home. You got a lot of energy in the building. You're playing the Broncos and all of a sudden you're going to show up and show out. Whereas you have the Raiders, I don't know if they know how to show out. They know how to show up, but they don't show out often. And what I mean by that is, Allegiant Stadium, there's probably going to be more Broncos country in the stadium than Raider Nation.
Wow.
Because Raider Nation, they're selling their tickets. There's nothing excited. There's nothing to excite this fan base with the product on the field right now. And I've heard that repeatedly from Raider Nation. So they're selling their tickets at a premium price, by the way, because, it's Vegas, right? Mm-hmm. And so, no, I expect Broncos country to be represented and the Broncos to be represented, and therefore adding energy to the Broncos more so than adding energy to the home team.
Wow, it's going to be fascinating to watch and see what it looks like in terms of a split on the broadcast there. Pritchett, in summary here, let's just close it up this way. Give me your ultimate prediction for Sunday's game in that 1 p.m. Pacific window.
Well, I'm going to go back to the first game, and that was a sloppy game, a Thursday night matchup. And, okay, there you go. The Raiders had an opportunity to show out on national TV. But, I think the Broncos will cover this number. I think it's 7. But, yeah, it might not be pretty. There might be a lot of field goals. People don't know this, but we're elevated here in Vegas. We're at like about 2,500 feet.
Okay.
So the ball does carry an Allegiant. So I think some long field goals will be in this one, on top of the fact that, you're going to see some big plays too from the Broncos as well. But it might be slow rolling in the beginning, but I think they pull away in the second half and win this game, this final matchup against the Raiders in 2025.
I would tend to agree with you. I think the Broncos will win this game. I don't think they will fall victim to the quote-unquote trap game, in part because, as I've said for most of the year, I don't think the Broncos haven't shown that they can dominate a team on the offensive side of the football enough to where I feel like they're susceptible to succumb to a trap game, to trip and fall. Every game has been a nail-biting, scratch and claw, 12-round fight. So if they were blowing teams out every week, I'd say okay, maybe. But I don't think that's on their radar because that's just not how the season has unfolded. That being said, I don't think the Broncos, record aside, and the way that they've put up, one of the best scoring differentials in the fourth quarter in the NFL, if not the best this season,
Right.
with some of their heroic comebacks. I don't think the Broncos have earned the right to be a touchdown favorite against any team in the NFL. They may cover, it may go out that way, but I see this game being I would say this game is much more likely to be a 23-17 or 16 gritty back and forth battle than a 31-7 blowout. So I will take the Broncos to win this game as well. But Pritch, there's just as likely of a feeling in the pit of my stomach that we could be watching this game coming into the third quarter and it's 9-6, in favor of the Raiders. And then the Broncos eventually kind of keep it going. So I guess we'll have to see.
You sound a little traumatized, man. I mean, you're up close and personal with the Broncos. Seriously. No, I mean, the Broncos can play their worst game of the year and still beat this team by 14 points, to be honest with you. The Raiders are averaging 14 points a game, barely, almost 15 points a game. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah.
But really just no sound structure and no philosophy on offense. And then defensively, I mean, you're hoping that Max makes a play or two. So, yeah, the Broncos, this is all about the Broncos in my estimation, Richie. Man, they should take care of business in this one. Have you feeling comfortable come Sunday?
Pritch, I will steal one more minute of your time here because you obviously have a lot of proud ties here to the Colorado area. You can see the Colorado Buffaloes jersey next to the Broncos jersey hanging behind you there. Pivoting away from the NFL, what are your overall thoughts on everything going up in Boulder at your alma mater with Coach Prime? Obviously, this season was a soft and disappointing follow-up to the 9-win season they had previously, but they make a change at offensive coordinator. There's maybe some potential hope or a light at the end of the tunnel with Julian Lewis. Where are you at with your Buffs right now?
I'm optimistic. I mean, I think this offense coordinator coming in, Marion, he was here at UNLV. And so I've seen this offense, the go-go offense, up close and personal. It's exciting. It really is. I think the fellows are going to like playing in it. I think the fellows are going to like playing for him. More importantly, he's going to bring confidence to Coach Prime on that side of the ball. I mean, I know Dion in terms of, you got people around you that you have relationships with, and certainly, firing people or demoting people is just not in your nature,
sure.
Right? But the offense was not going anywhere. With what's the coach's name? I can't remember his name.
Pat
Shurmur. Thank you so much. I wanted to forget him. That's why I forgot his name. It wasn't going anywhere with him. So you're picking up the pieces. So now you have an up and coming coordinator with this innovative offense that's really going to be very, very exciting. But he's going to own this offense, right? And I think that's going to give confidence to Coach Prime and what he needs to do. And then if he can get people sound on that side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, I think more talent, right? Definitely more talent on that side of the ball. Things are going to look great again. He hit the ground running. He had the spotlight. He had all the hype around him, and certainly that created a lot of momentum. But then that momentum left with Hunter leaving and certainly Shedeur. So now you got to replace those caliber of players, and that's where really the job is, and that's where the work is, and that's recruiting and being consistent there. So once they get that under the umbrella and certainly in the building, then the consistency will happen. Then the program's really rolling. So I love to hire a new offensive coordinator. I love the philosophy change, and I love the fact that Coach Prime is motivated. So a motivated Deion Sanders has never been a bad thing. It's always been a good thing. So I'm looking for good things from Colorado.
I am too. I am too. I think that it's going to be a breath of fresh air in some respects, and I certainly think there's a lot more optimism heading into 2026 with that season than there was after the handful of games here into 2025, as the Pat Shurmur experience ended about the same way that it's ended at every step of his collegiate or professional career when he's in charge of an offense. Pritch, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your insight on both college football and the NFL. Always good to catch up with you, and we'll find a time to do it again soon.
That sounds great. Great to catch up with you, and great to hear that you're doing well. And Also great to be with you on your program here today.
Love it. Love it. He is Mike Pritchard, college football and NFL analyst out there in Las Vegas. The rest of you out there, have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. We will catch you on Monday at noon, a reaction Monday to another potential win for the Broncos on The Rundown.
I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.